Japan, Part 177. As Ronald Doe put it, Japan, even more than Germany, is a late modernizer with a particular set of institutions designed for rapid catching up. In the later part of the 20th century, these institutions originally developed for providing central direction for rapid change turn out to be better adapted to the complex problems of post-industrial society than the institutions of Western countries that were developed for creating industrialization. In the current era of rapid change, a highly politicized population, environmental pollution, and shortage of resources, the Japanese have found that institutions which provide more central direction, more flexibility, and more consensus outperformed those with lack of these capacities. Until a few decades ago, America's institutions, which grew out of the Western European experiences, worked extraordinarily well. Doctrines of the private enterprise, civil liberties, and states' rights allowed creative individuals and institutions to adapt to local situations. With its scientific and technological inventions, America was on the forefront of world creativity. Laws developed in response to the European tyranny gave individuals their highly prized personal freedom. Benevolent charities and the academic institutions provided a level of humanity and decency lacking in many nations. When these institutions were at the height of their success, Americans were proud and devoted to their country. By the 1970s, however, institutions that once served our country effectively have often been found wanting and have been strained almost to the breaking point. Organizations lost the power and the flexibility to function effectively. In a loosely organized urban society, ordinary citizens are defenseless against crime and license. Government regulations have multiplied, creating endless litigation that burdens the society financially and organizationally. Commitments made when resources were seemingly inexhaustible have created expectations that cannot be realized. Benevolent impulses and the government programs have proliferated in the mass confusion without adequate consideration of the financial burden on the taxpayer, of the divisiveness between the taxpayer and the recipient, of the motivation of the low-paid worker, and of the self-depreciation of the recipient in an achievement-oriented society. The pace of the economic change has accelerated and the foreign trade increased, but America's institutions are not strong enough to guide these developments or to respond effectively to the problems of its declining economic competitiveness. When certain dislocations can cause enormous human misery, as in the excessive migration from the rural south to the northern cities in recent decades, the United States has had no migration policy. Our institutional practices promote adversary relations and litigation at a time when the complexity of our organizations require greater consideration of overall goals and when divisiveness threatens to disrupt the society. As a result, judges are called upon to make complex ruling concerning social and economic situations, a task for which they are most often professionally unprepared. Japan, with its greater sense of group orientation, more recent emergence from the feudalism, and the government-led modernization, has developed solutions for many of these problems that America, with its more individualistic and legalistic history, might never have invented. America's transition to industrialization did not require the central direction, nor the high level of government and business cooperation required of a borrower. Now that post-industrial America too requires higher levels of cooperation and more central leadership oriented to modern economic order, there is no reason why America could not borrow and adapt Japanese model, which with a different tradition it could not have originally created. No one should underestimate the difficulty of pulling out specific practices from their context